So coming down to the rules of Parliament, going into SONA 2016, the Secretary of Parliament reiterated the importance of it being a joint sitting, the rules of the NCOP, the rules of the National Assembly coming into play, just in kind of a dummy's guide to the rules of Parliament. What can MPs not do?
Well, the rules of Parliament are there to ensure that there is debate that is robust, but which is also dignified and which allows for tolerance and allows for everyone's point of view to be heard. The difficulty with the EFF's action last year when they pulled the stunt of disrupting the State of the Nation address, but the problem with that was that they abused that privilege in Parliament, I think, because they actually killed off debate. They stopped the President from speaking and they stopped the public and the rest of the House of the National Assembly from listening to the President. I've got a real problem with that. On the other hand, to use the rules to stifle debate, to silence elected members of Parliament is also a very heavy-handed thing to do. And there are delicate constitutional balances to be found here.
And I suppose the difficulty there is if you look at the Speaker of Parliament and some of the sort of subsidiaries of the Speaker, they're both MPs within a political party, but also servants of the state and servants of the People's Parliament, which is what you see branded on the entrance when you go in as a citizen of South Africa. Last year,
I think the difficulty on that, if I can interrupt, is parliaments have to have legitimacy in terms of the way the rules are enforced. The Speaker of the National Assembly is also the chairperson of the ANC, and that, to my mind, creates an inescapably difficult, problematic conflict of interest. She has a profound duty to her party as the chairperson, but she has a duty to the Constitution as the Speaker of Parliament, and I don't think that's unentangled itself, and therefore her rulings on the rules lack legitimacy.
Is there another model where in a representational democracy someone like the Speaker isn't partisan?
Well, there is a tradition in some parliaments of the Speaker resigning the whip, as it's called, in other words giving up their membership of the party. And I had a conversation with Freni Ginwala, the first Speaker of the National democratically elected Parliament back in '94, where she made the very strong point. She said, I can resign the whip of the ANC, but it won't make any difference. I am ANC through and through.
Yeah.
The question is not whether I'm ANC, it's whether, despite being ANC, I can rule this House and apply the rules of this House in a fair, objective, impartial manner.
Yeah, in an even-handed way.
In an even-handed way, exactly.
I mean, something you said about the EFF's disruptions last year is that they were an appalling and disruptive abuse of parliamentary process, and it's going to be interesting to see this year what happens in terms of the rules and structures of Parliament for SONA. My final question is really whether you think the heavy-handed, arguably heavy-handed security, snipers on the roofs of the National Assembly, you know, a very somber mood around the parliamentary precinct, has that set a precedent and kind of upped the bar that we cannot now retreat from, or it's going to be very difficult to lower again? That's now the standard.
I fear so. The mood around the State of the Nation address last year was very different from previous years. It didn't feel like a ceremony or a celebration. It felt a very defensive, very tense affair. And that's partly because I think this government is feeling defensive, and this president in particular is on the defensive. They were expecting a fight with the EFF, and they were prepared for that. And that became the primary narrative of the whole event. And the bigger picture, providing a statement to the public, to the nation, was kind of lost in that. And the question is, can it be reclaimed? And this year, I think we'll all be looking to see if the mood is different, or whether the heavy hand of State Intelligence Service is on this event again.
So it really boils down to that question of whether or not we're going to see a lot of sideshow ahead of SONA 2016, or whether the meat and bones of President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address is what the public and policymakers will be paying attention to. Professor Richard Callan, thank you for your time.
Pleasure.